Hi, I'm Tom Simino. I want to ask the candidates up here. I voiced in my letter that we really need a fire department. We need a building. We need to take care of our fire company. My question is, would the village be willing to dissolve the village fire department, work with the town and the local communities to form a fire district where all of the people in the town and the surrounding areas would be responsible to then build this company? Because the fire department now is used, according to Dean, probably equally by the town. And my comment is, the village alone should not be charged with building the building. We get a stipend from the town now, which equals half the budget, which is now paying for the equipment. But if we build a new building, that is not going to cover the cost of operating the new building alone unless we make some deal with the town. And the people in the town should be paying for the building as well as the people in the village. And this can be done, if possible, by forming a fire district.
Can you allow them to answer your question, Cathy?
To be honest, this is the first time I've heard this suggestion about completely dissolving the village fire department. As far as I'm concerned, as mayor, nothing's off the table. But at first hearing this is something that I'm not necessarily in favor of. I'm in favor of trying to get additional monies from the town to help pay for the new building. But as far as dissolving the village fire department straight off the bat, it would take an awful lot of convincing to convince me to go down that route.
My question to you, Mr. Simino, is are you asking if dissolving the village or dissolving the village fire department? Do you want to dissolve the village and then just become a town government?
I have talked about that, but in this case, this is the fire department now working for a large section of the community. And the cost of building it should be those that are using it. When I talked to the town about this, they really weren't interested, but only in giving us a certain amount of money based on assessed value.
Well, this is where open government, open communication needs to begin. I think that with our new government, this would be a great time for new relationships to begin between the village and town, and we need to start working together for one goal, and that is so the village and town can have fire protection that all businesses and houses deserve. I support the Greenwich Fire Department. I would like to see it in the IGA building, and again, I'll state that I would like some of the property for the Greenwich Fire Department, and then the other sold commercially for a tax base. Thank you.
The Greenwich Fire Department themselves have put up a draft to build a firehouse on the property that the village hall is at right now. They approached the town wouldn't go with them back then. The village board wouldn't go along with them back then. Since then, the village board has done feasibilities on the village hall by the tune of $36,000. And that tune never approached 184 Main Street once. The fire department's tried, the town and the village was not pulling through with the other responsibilities. And granted, like Mr. Simino said, the town does pay 50% of the equipment costs. So part of the community is still trying, the other part of the community is sitting back, but the ones that can go ahead with it just haven't gone along with what the village or the town could use.
I've never been involved, or I've never wanted to have the village dissolve. In addition, I would also say, that is the only way that I would ever want to see a fire district there. To have a fire district, you also have to create then a board of commissioners, which creates a lot of other, I would say, problems. So, I would never want to have a district because I wouldn't want to dissolve the village. And again, I would just like to be able to get the amount of money that we need to get from the town to do what's necessary there.
I know what the firemen are going through. I used to be a volunteer fireman in Greenwich. And it's a nightmare. At 2 o'clock in the morning, you run into that firehouse, and you're hoping someone doesn't open the door or anything else, trying to get to your gear, and then trying to get on that truck. And with that siren blowing, hopefully there'll be no bricks coming off when you're trying to get in the door. They're in dire needs of a building. We have to decide where we're going to put it and how much we're going to spend. We can build a new firehouse, but we need support from the town. Fire district, you got to have elections for fire commissioners every 4 years, and anything that's voted on for the firehouse is all done by the whole community. So there's a whole new election board there for each commissioner. If that's going to sit on the board, it's elected by the people of the community. That may be the best way to go. I've been in a few fire districts that were like that, and the community had to say what they built and what they bought. But the fire department needs our support. Financially, we have to work on it. We got to get our needs, and if we can afford some wants, so be it. But right now, our needs are the things that need to be taken care of. So fire district, yeah, possibility, if that's what, but it's a long road to get a fire district.
Mr. Senator, to answer your question specifically, I think we should look at fire districting because I think there are some possibilities of savings there to be looked at. Now, whether or not the taxpayers and ultimately the constituents agree, or the board agree to make a fire commissioner, make up a board of fire commissioners and go that route, I'm not so sure. I would definitely be in favor of looking at it because we do have within 3.5, 4 miles, we have 3 firehouses, all full of brand new equipment. And I think as far as the fire protection efficiencies that could be gained in this small little community, there's no question that is one of the first places I think we should start. Now, whether it's a fire district, I'm not 100% sure, but there's no question we have to communicate with the town and other fire companies to see if we can go, forward to try to, get a building and keep this department as good as it is right now.
I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself before. I'm Tracy Frisch. And I just want to follow up with Mike Schreiner regarding what you want to do with the IGA. Mike told me that he initiated a process to solicit bids for the IGA. Several bids came in a few months ago. The matter's been tabled, and it would be good to see what his feeling is about the building.
Right, there's no question. I did initiate a process to receive offer sheets on 184 Main Street. The reason is to find out what opportunity there was out there to potentially sell that property. It is our best commercial property in this village, and there's no question the fire department needs a new firehouse. But I don't think we have exhausted all avenues at this point. Whether you look at, we did receive 2 offers, and I did communicate them. The board had wished to table those offer sheets until after the elections, so that a new board that would be in place to handle this situation. My resolution to this would be to look at going back on the existing site it is, or to look at a Beale Avenue, which I have not been able to get anything across with the current board the way it sits at this point. I am not totally disjoined from the possibility of just selling part of the 184 Main Street and putting the structure there as far as the firehouse is concerned. So those would be my options to go forward.
As far as the IJ property, I think what we paid $450,000 for it, and if we can get $700,000 or so, there's $250,000 we got to work for the fire department. And with the property, that's one less bill we got to pay for the IJ property that we're paying for the loan we took out. That money goes back on all that property goes back on the tax rolls. And then we got $250,000 to start with the firehouse. If that's, if we get one of the people with the office to put that in. Now, $250,000 and having that back on the tax rolls, that's a nice chunk of change each year coming in for taxes. And, and work with the fire department. Then we got $250,000 to start and get this fire department rolling what they need. And that's my feeling on it.
My name is Jill Attiello. I have a question for everyone. We've heard a lot of talk about the fire department, and I also believe that the fire department does need a suitable house, the equipment that they need, because God knows I don't want my house to burn down, and I don't want my children to be in any harm whatsoever. But the only thing that I've been hearing about for the past 6 years is that we need a fire department, and we need a house for our firemen. There's been feasibility studies, there's been discussions, there's been properties purchased, there's been talk of numerous grant money from all of you that's out there, but nothing seems to be happening. It's just talk. And what I want to know is if 5 years from now I'm not sitting in the same auditorium hearing the same discussion with 6 other new candidates that's running trying to get us out of this problem. So for my tax money, I mean, me and probably everyone in this room, I work hard for my money, and I want to know that it's being spent. So how are we going to get this firehouse? How are we going to pay for it? And is there a promise out there that it's going to happen? I mean, so that we're not all sitting here 5 years from now saying, what happened to it?
It's my understanding that the fire department has been working diligently for many, many years and have come up with a couple of different feasibility studies. I don't believe we need to start from scratch on this. We need to start working with the studies that they have in hand and to find a balance between their needs, what the studies that they have done, and then trying to return most or as much of that IGA property to the tax rolls as possible. It's a way of trying to strike a balance to do that. Paying for it, that's a whole other story. As I said, the Rural Communities Program, the USDA, has projects and programs specifically set up to help fund public safety structures, including fire departments. There isn't as much grant money out there as there used to be because of federal cutbacks. But some of the loan programs that they offer are 40-year loans at percentages as low as 1%. Obviously, there's money that we would need to look at from other locations as well. That's why I believe that we would need to hire a professional grant writer on a per diem basis or paying them out of the grant money. Because to be perfectly honest, there's no one on the current board or no one sitting up here that has the expertise to research grants, to research the federal earmarks. Our representatives in Washington are willing to help us with them, but they cannot sit down and write the grant proposals or the loan proposals. The village needs to do that. And so I don't think that we should be, us amateurs should be trying to struggle through the paperwork and the research to find out where that grant money is, we need a professional to help us do that.
This problem is not unique. This has happened in other villages. So I think it's up to the new board that we use all of our energy and dedicate ourselves to this problem through grants, through research, and make this happen. I really would like to see the fire department on the IGA property, and then with the other half being sold commercially to start. Also, before in my introduction, I was mentioning monies from Roy McDonald, Betty Little, and Joe Bruno. This is through Project Sunlight, which is through the Office of the Attorney General. And that's a great start. Local communities getting $30,000, $25,000, that is a great start for fire departments. And I think it's, we need to start off small with what we need, not with what we want, and then plan for room for expanding their building. Thank you.
As I said, the fire department was satisfied to stay where they were. They approached the village, they approached the town. Neither government would give them what they asked for, what they needed 20 years ago. The cost of things have risen drastically. If the grants could be found, the fixture of the building that's there presently probably wouldn't be a quarter of the cost. It would be more than half the cost of what it would be to put something at 184 Main Street. Personally, if it was me, and if I was Leo Flynn, I'd be sitting back saying, now here's part-time guys that will be protecting my village, but my men sitting down in a wooden barn with cold equipment, and we need more storage. What are we going to build? It's difficult. You got to build something all the way around. You can't just have the fire department. You got to think these guys that work 40, 48 hours a week also. Granted, not taking anything from the fire department, they put a lot of hours, a lot of time, and they have a lot of equipment. But the thing is to ask them if they're satisfied with what they had there. Not what they're going to need new. We don't have the money for the tools.
A couple questions there. It's always been something that we plan to do in terms of using the USDA money and other grant monies for the fire department. Just like when you build a house and you go for a mortgage, you have to know how much that's going to cost. We've never been able to get to the point of ultimately knowing what that is going to cost because, again, we've looked at different sites, again, for years. So we're still trying to figure out what the site is going to be. Obviously, everybody still has, different questions about what the site should be, and then what the building will ultimately be. But at that point, when we get that, then we can start the grant process and the loan process. So to answer your question, I can't honestly tell you that 5 years from now, this won't still be going on. I honestly hope it's not, but I can't say that. Again, I think that was your ultimate question. I don't have an answer for you there. I think we would all like it to happen as soon as we possibly can, but we're talking about a lot of money, and they've been very difficult problems. Something else that we were trying to do there was at the same time put money back on the tax roll at the same time from that property with the IGA. And also, I think people know that we tried to do things with Mayor McClellan. They closed. Then we tried to do things with Glens Falls Hospital, and that didn't work either. So those are some of the things that have made this very difficult. And again, I wish it had already happened. It hasn't, and hopefully the new board can go forward and we can ultimately make this happen.
I don't make political promises, but my first priority is the fire department and the IGA, and then the water tower. We can sell that property. There's other properties in the village to put a firehouse. We're talking, to start off with $250 million after the property is sold, if that's what it sells for, if not more. We can at least have the money, stop these feasibility studies that cost us $30,000 every time we have an engineering company come up there. We know what we need. We gotta get the property and get it rolling. My goal is to have a firehouse and to have that property down on Main Street sold commercially and get it so we got a tax base coming in to help pay for the new firehouse with the new taxes. We cannot afford right now to have a new water tower, a new firehouse, and not have any of that property back on the tax roll. But yes, I think within 4 years, I think we can get the firehouse, the bricks starting to be put up, or whatever we decide to build it on. But to sit here and say, in 5 years, we may be in the same boat, that's stagnant, and we gotta get out of that. That's what we've been going through for the last 15, 20 years.
To answer the question as specifically as I can, the biggest thing is the feasibility studies that have been done and all the hard work the fire department has put into this project as far as getting to a point of what they need in the building. But along, I think what needs to be set up is a focus group of fire department members, 1 or 2 village board members, and then community members to figure out what this community, not just what the fire department needs, but what this community wants. And we don't really have that right now in mind. And that's always been my struggle in this whole progress, is that we don't know what the community wants to take on. And it is ultimately their decision because it is their dollar. And that's why I do want to set this up to go forward and try to get this figured out that way. Thanks.
Why don't you keep the microphone, Mike? We'll just go right down the list. This is a fairly simple question, yes or no. Some of you have already answered this very succinctly and clearly, but I do want a simple yes or no answer to this. Could you support a firehouse project on all or part of the IGA project for property on 84 Main Street?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Emily, I apologize. George Casey, I live at 169 Main Street in the Village. Thank you.
I'm Heidi Nick Seegers. I live at 150 Main Street. We've been living here for, I guess, about 19 years. And I wanted to thank you guys for doing this. I don't know if I got the ball rolling by asking, can we have all these, with all the debates going on now, it seemed like it might be a good idea to meet these people and put a face to the name. So thank you all for making this happen. I just have a specific question about, I don't know if you're allowed to tell us, but the offers that did come in for the IGA property, I would be really curious as a realtor here also to know, maybe not who they were from, but what kind of numbers were we offered? Also from Don, where are you getting that specific number from? Is that, I don't want to say wishful thinking, but I'd like to know more concretely where those numbers are coming from. And also, with regard to the property or selling parts of the IGA property, how that, if there's anything more specific you can talk about with regard to that. I know Liz mentioned that.
My understanding for the whole IGA property, there was an offer, there was actually 2 offers. One for $700,000 and one for $500,000. And if I'm wrong, people around the board can correct me.
Those numbers are exactly correct. That's what the numbers stated. that's what we asked for. And these two individuals one came to me, well, they both came to me. And I threw it out there. I wanted to see. I really wanted to see, just to have that for public knowledge and to have it for my knowledge. Not that we'll do anything with it, but possibly there is that option out there. The thing is the 700,000 definitely piques my interest from the standpoint, that's just an offer sheet. That's not even negotiations. So.
Hi, to answer your question, yes, I would like to use half of the IGA property for the Greenwich Fire Department and the other half for commercial sales, the tax base. I went to a meeting and had great thoughts, and through Chief Watkins and other members, Mr. Genevic, we had a long talk, and it's complicated. But through grants, I don't know if we're going to have to do fundraising, but through very creative financing, I think it's possible. I have spoken to Casiuna and Argyle Fire Department. They both have new buildings. They're both very nice. I know Casiuna did all the fundraising, and that was in the general vicinity of $300,000 to $400,000. But because of state bylaws and different litigation, there was a problem with that, because I thought, isn't that great? We can have a new building for that amount of money. That would be doable, and that would be a huge tax burden to the village residents. That's all I know. I'm researching it, and I'd be happy to talk to you about this later. Thank you.
Yeah, to answer your question, Heidi, without having had a chance yet to sit down and look at the feasibility studies that the fire department has come up with, I really don't know how much property we would be able to sell and exactly where on the IGA property the new fire station would go. So I can't, unfortunately, that's the best answer I can give you right now on that.
Not long ago, a guy said, day one, everything changes. We know how that worked out. Day one's coming, and I think we have a pretty unique opportunity because there's 3 seats available for a real day one. And when I got on the school board in '97, we had the same opportunity. There was 3 of us out of 5 that came on the school board. And what was interesting about it was we sat at the same table the night after the election, and we had a list of motions. We had a list of agenda items. So day one's coming. What's on the agenda? What's the action items? What's going to happen? We need some action. We've had a lot of deliberative discussion over years and years and years, but we need some action. Things have to come on the agenda. They need to be acted upon, and we need to move and stop talking about things. We take our cars to get oil changes because we need to maintain things. It's money that we spend. We need to do the same thing with the infrastructure of the community, whether it's the fire department, whether it's the roads, whether it's the water department, whatever it is. We need to take action and do things. What's on your agenda?
Well, I'm sorry I came late. I'm Cathy Brown. I'll be on the ballot as Mary Catherine Brown. What's on the agenda is taking some hard looks at what we can lose insofar as services are concerned. I hate to say that, but the budget doesn't allow for much wiggle room. The payroll runs almost $750,000, including the benefits assigned to the payroll. The entire budget for last year was written up to be $1.3 million. The debt service is $120,000 a year. That just doesn't leave a lot to cut. So, as a community, we have to think about what we're willing to give up. I'm not sure what those answers are. I'm hard pressed to say to you, well, we don't get our roads paved because now they do need to be paved, the ones that have gotten beaten up. But it's a monumental decision if we want to control how much tax we're paying right now and potentially lower it. And that's about all I have to say.
Yeah, Peter, I think the very first thing I would do, if I'm elected mayor, would be to contact the local property owners with vacant land here in the village or empty buildings and offer to work with them to help market them. This is something that municipalities do in New York State. Salem, New York, on their website, and there's a town in central New York whose name escapes me right now. Part of their websites are show listings of vacant and commercial property that's available and for sale. We need to find businesses that come in to help rejuvenate not only our downtown, but to bring jobs in. For instance, I would love to see like a small machine shop come in down on the old mill property, or perhaps in the property where the railroad yard is now. This is the type of business that is not environmentally dangerous and provides good, well-paying jobs, and it brings more tax revenues into the village. Secondly, I would sit down with the fire department to look over what their feasibility studies are to come up with a better idea. Thirdly, I would look into hiring, as I have said repeatedly, a professional grant writer to help guide us. Fourthly, I would go back, as Cathy and I did earlier, to the USDA office on Route 40 to fully explore all our options through them. As I explained, they have programs specifically aimed at rehabilitating or refurbishing water and sewage programs, which covers our water tower. They have monies for rehabilitating municipal buildings and also fire stations. Again, this is not money they're just giving away for the most part. It's mostly long-term, low-interest loans. But we need to sit down with them and talk about that. The fact that they are so close to us and that they have sent out material repeatedly year after year after year to the village government and to the town government, and the fact that nothing has been done with that money as far as major projects other than Cynthia Meadows, I think is a shame.
Pete, I think it starts with communications. I mean, I think everybody across the board agrees with this. Communication with the village government, communication with the town government, and we need to contact our local representatives, Roy McDonald, Joe Bruno, and Betty Little, to see how they can help us, and so we can get things moving forward with the fire department and the IGA. That would be my first step, if you elect me, March 18th with day one, communication. That's why I'm running. I feel that things have been stale, nothing's moving forward. I've heard that it's due to a lack of communication. It begins with communication. If we can get good communication going, somebody recommended a local, a focal group. Let's do that. That would be great too. But it starts with the communication, and then it'll have a ripple effect. Thank you.
When it takes $100 bag of cement to point up that building around the firehouse where the main door is, I ask myself, what's been going on? $100 would fix it. And this has been over a period of years. They bought the IGA at 184 Main Street for $400,000. They've been told they had the opportunity to sell it for $700,000. And you people in business out there, if you had the opportunity to sell your place for $700,000, think of it, of the money that you would have made and could have had. And when we do get the gain on fund, we could have put it towards that then.
I guess I would say, first off, taxes are the first thing we have to look at, and there's a lot of ways of looking at that. There's two sides to our budget, appropriations and revenue. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't look at the revenue side, and we need to continue to look at the revenue side. And there's, again, I think there's a lot of creative ways to do that. I think over the years we have done some of those things. I think we need to continue to do that. Again, cost is a big problem here, and we have to continue to keep costs down so that people can stay in their homes. After that, I think the next priority, we need to figure out something here for the fire department. And the new board needs to get at that right away, to look at all the information we've already gotten over the years, and continue and find out what we're going to do, and get a referendum in place so that we see if the community wants to do that. So again, I would say those are the two priorities.
Just like anyone else, you got to have your house in order. You got to get your budget under control. First thing, like everyone said, we need to get more revenue in. First priority would be sell the IGA property, take that money where we get $700, wherever we get for it, pay off the loan we got for the property that we've had for the last 5 years, 6 years, how long we had it. Take that money. There's other properties in the village we can build a firehouse on. There's some down behind the old station. There's properties that are probably going to become up for not paying their taxes, and we could put them on the market. There's ways, there's other property. I know the IGA parking lot is a great spot for a firehouse. It's egress out is great, but you do a tax study, you do a traffic study on there, and you see how much traffic that we have go through there for commercial businesses. And once they do that traffic study, you'd be amazed how many drugstores or box stores, not major box stores, but would come in there and pay top dollar for that traffic that can go on that property. And we put that money back in and pay for our building for the firehouse with the tax dollars that we get from selling that property, and also being back on the tax roll. We need to get properties back on the tax roll in order to lower the taxes and pay for the things that we need in the village. And after that, we have to get some grants for a new water tower. The last administration, one trustee, she tried to darn us to get the grants going. I don't know how far it's got, but that's the next step. We have to get the water tower situation under control up there. So that's my 3 priorities: get the taxes under control, sell the property, and get the firehouse. And the 4th thing will be the water tower. It's still standing, so we're in good shape there.
Peter, on 3 things right out of the gate on the agenda. I think we need a public comment section on the agenda to get community involvement. I think we need to set up focus groups in regards to 184 Main Street / fire department, firehouse, to determine, to take the information that's already been collected and go forward. And then thirdly is to set up focal groups, same way, community-based and board-based, for continued shared services, and definitely looking at dissolution. I think it's a hard thing to comprehend, but we have to look at it. We definitely have to look at the amount of money that's being thrown out there from the state and federal government. We have to look at these options as far as a combined tax base is concerned. And I definitely would like to do that with a focus group and put it out there. And I'm hoping that Mr. Seminole would definitely be part of that with us. Thank you.
Are there any more questions?
Just to follow up on my young son here. Nobody answered the question. Nobody answered the question. It's all discussion. You missed the point of the question. If you're a trustee on the board of election, on the school board, the town board, A motion is an action item. It's a motion. What action item would you take? Not talk. It's an action item. Would you fire the attorney? Would you make a motion at the meeting to fix the tower? That's action item. That's what you are as trustees, is making those motions, not talking about it. As a trustee, you are the representatives of the people who to guide. You are charged with making the motions that make it happen. And nobody answered the question as to what action you would take. Tell me one action you would do sitting on the board for the first time. Is there anything? Is there anything you want to see?
Well, I know that I just talked about reducing services. That would be the first thing that I would work on, is trying to reduce the amount of service so that the labor could get cut back on the hourly employees. That would include some of the Department of Public Work people and the police. The other thing that I would love to do is to fire the town attorney. And then perhaps maybe things can go forward.
Would you make a motion on that?
I absolutely would, Tom. I don't have a problem with that.
As mayor, I believe I would have the authority to replace the village attorney, which I would do. I would also change that position from a paid salary position to a per diem position, which would end up resulting in lowering our taxes.
Yes, I would replace the village attorney. I would make a motion. Yes, I would make a motion to sell half of the IGA property. And speaking with Julie, yes, I would continue to make a motion and follow up on the grants through the EPA or the USDA on the water tower that they're trying to begin right now.
As I said, a $100 bill would take care of that cement on the front of that building. That was one motion. Another motion would be to go ahead and sell 184 Main Street at $700,000. We can get, well, we probably can't get more than that. And also, I concur with everybody so far that we do need a village attorney.
In terms of a motion, I think what I would have to say is, yeah, we would have to have a motion to start the fire department process now. And again, I've said it before, I'll say it again, that I think the best reason, or the best place for that is where we bought that property. So again, I guess I would make the motion at that point to start that there. That doesn't mean that half of that property wouldn't be in the motion to have a business there or something else on the tax roll, but that would be the motion that I would have to make.
I would second the motion for getting rid of the village attorney. So there's the two motions. We just got to get all in favor, and we got a new attorney coming in. No pun intended, but I think it's time we get a new attorney. A motion I would make would be to sell the IJ property. And the other motion would be to build a firehouse in the village. There is property around. We got to look outside the box. Everybody's focusing on that property. When it was bought for $450,000, it wasn't set for the village. It was set to go with Mayor McCollum or something else. So, you know, I know everybody's saying that's a good thing, get the fire department on your side, but I'm being realistic what we got to do here. And if we can get almost $250,000, and say we took that $400,000 that's left on that loan for the IJ property and put that in with the firehouse, kept that loan, taxes still got to stay where they are now. That's $650,000 we got to build with a firehouse. And if we can get a firehouse for $650,000, we have some problems, and that's a good start right there. $650,000. So my second motion will be to sell the IGA property, and the third one would be to build a new firehouse with the monies.
As far as the first motion, I would put down as the first motion an RFP for a new village engineer. I'm very unsatisfied with the developments that their unattentiveness to our needs. Do not need. Chambers had increasing difficulties with them in dealing with them, and I think we don't have to have a one-stop shop engineer firm. I think we can reach out and use RFPs for varying projects as needed.
My name is Jerry Hurst. I'm a taxpayer in the village, and I'm here representing the fire department tonight. My question's addressed to candidate McKinley and candidate Jordan. If you were elected and were brought up to speed on the research that had brought the decision that IGA was the most viable prospect for the firehouse, would you be willing to change your position?
Some years ago, I was at a village board meeting. There was another piece of property in village, downtown, for sale, $100,000. I brought up the motion to look into it, to purchase it, and to see what it would cost. And I was informed by the fire department that it was a safety hazard to build a firehouse there in the middle of Washington Square, where now the outlet is, Best Cathy and all that area. So I asked myself, what is the safety hazard at 184 Main Street if Glens Falls Hospital moves out, Burger King moves in? What are we going to have? More safety hazard? And now we're in debt with a big firehouse right in the middle of Main Street.
Tom, before you pass the mic, I'd re-ask the question. If you were elected and were brought up to speed on the information that made that the most viable site, would you be willing to change your position?
I would certainly sit down and listen to it. And if I thought it was a good deal, yes, I would probably go along with it.
Thank you.
My answer would be no, because that's everyone's focusing on. There's other properties in the village that we can actually look at and build a firehouse on for the village. I'm going to be honest with you, no, I think we need to get that back on the tax rolls so we can pay for some of these things we want to get done.
Okay. Thank you both for your candor.
I have a quick question, jumping on the board. Can anybody tell us why the town and the village assesses the house every single year when every other community does not? We're talking about confirming taxes. So if my house goes up $60,000 and you keep the tax rate the same, you're not controlling taxes.
Is your question for someone that's on the board now? This isn't a question for people being elected?
On the board now, people being elected, but they change that. Where most communities do it for 3 to 5 years, or they're talking about getting the county to do it to get fair assessments across the board. If they're curbing taxes, they're not curbing taxes, their assessments don't. And your house is not being able to sell. The higher assessment goes, the longer your property value goes for its taxes.
That question that should be addressed to the assessor.
I've already talked to the assessor.
Yeah, and the assessor is a town assessor. What happens, and again, I know this doesn't answer your question, but I do just want to say one thing about that, is that we use the town assessor, we use the same role. So again, as like Tom was saying, you know, that's something for the town and the assessor to talk about. In terms of Easton, we do have the assessor, a different assessor from the town of Easton, do Easton specifically, just because it keeps the whole thing equal in the village. And again, that's one of the problems we have with having two towns, Easton and Greenwich. I mean, they're different. So to keep the whole village equal, that's what we do there for Easton. Again, though, I'm sorry I can't tell you about they do in terms of the village. I don't know if they do for the rest of the town. Again, we do it when we have to, because so that the whole village will be equal at that point. Again, but with your other question, I can't tell you there. I'm sorry.
I think we're going to chime in there. If anyone's read the newspaper, I've been to many of the town meetings for our fine assessments that we get done in the town and village. They do 100% assessment, and since we have one that's here all the time, that's why we're 100% assessed, because we get a certain amount of money from the state for each property that's 100% assessed each year. Yeah, oh, believe me, I'm not on the choir for the assessor, believe me. I've been battling left and right, and it falls on deaf ears. And yes, everyone in this building has the same problem. They're raising our assessments because someone went from New York City, came up here and buys a house for $450,000 on a street that basically isn't even worth it, and everything around it goes up. They reassess everything. I can attest my property has gone up at least 200% in the last 5 or 6 years, maybe more. Actually, I was almost at the point where we're going to move out because it's getting to the point now where the taxes are just way too high. And that's why I'm on here. I try to fight City Hall.
So I'm going to have to stop you there.
Okay.
I don't think this is the appropriate forum for that question. It doesn't seem like you asked something that would have to do with their being elected. That's something that already happens now. So if there are any other questions pertaining to how they will change things if they are elected, this would be the appropriate time to ask those.
The commission being made by Mike Catalfamo off the use of Greenwich's money, instead of going to Mike Catalfamo's pocket, how come it's not being used to value the firemen or go to the firehouse or go back into the account for the Gannon people?
You gotta get up to
Can you hold that in case it runs out? The money being made off the use of Greenwich's money, the Gannon fund, that's going into Mike Catalfamo's pocket right now, I believe you said it was $30,000. How come that's not going to value the firehouse or the firemen that need a new place or back into the Gannon fund's own account? And what will people running do to change how the commission is being dealt with?
Can I go first?
Sure.
That's his fee that he's been collecting over the years. It's not all just one time thing. I don't know. I know he's got another one coming up as far as for being steward of the money. Some of the board members tried to get that out of his hands 2 months ago, but a couple of the board members are not here tonight that are not up for election, voted no on it. And so they felt because we get more interest, because it's in his trust, there's more of an interest gaining on it. But I don't feel as if someone should be making money off the Gannon fund, and fees are no fees. And I've been fighting that right along, and I'm not a very probably well-liked person with the lawyer for our village, and probably some people on the board, but we need to, that's why I'm going to make a motion to have a new lawyer represent us and get the money out of his hands before anything else happens.
As far as the commission that he's earned, we've always wanted to use the monies in the Gannon fund for youths, and we'd never go any further. We never cross lines like that. Secondly, we have kept the monies in trust because it earns a higher rate of return where it is right now. I am the individual that started the process. I motioned to get the monies out of the trust and get them into our possessions, and at this time they are continually dragging on. I don't have an answer to that. But the process has been started. Hopefully we'll go to the Attorney General and then get to us. The problem there is that instead of an interest rate of, probably 5 to 8%, we're only going to be able to earn somewhere between 1.5 to 3. So that's one of the reasons why we left it in trust for so long, as far as that's concerned.
I can't say much other than that. That is the reason that we kept it in the trust, the interest only. Obviously, as a municipality, we don't have a lot of flexibility of what we can do with your money as taxpayers. While it's still in the trust, we have the ability to get a lot more interest there. So again, just like Mike said, that is why we've had it in the trust all this time.
I would make a motion, and that's for you, Mr. Semina. I make a motion to begin a 501c3, so it's in a separate account. And with the $30,000 interest that you're talking about, Megan, I would use it immediately for local youth groups and organizations. I would have a process that you have to submit what the purpose is. So if Little League wanted a few $1,000s, I'm just grabbing these numbers out here, for new uniforms, they go through a process, they submit the application, and then it's approved through a group that consists of village board members and local residents. So that's the $30,000 that you're talking about in interest. I know that it's also going to be used this year for 2 scholarships, 2 $500 scholarships, in memory of Mr. and Mrs. Gannon, which I think is also a great start. And that's it. I'd like to see the money in a separate account where the village attorney does not have any authority over it.
Yeah, as I said earlier, whether it's a 501c3 or a foundation or some other institution, I think the money needs to get put into that situation, and hopefully, as I said earlier, we can reconstitute the people, or ask the people who are on the original Gannon Commission if they would be willing to step forward and work on this, strictly as volunteers. I think one other issue that has not been brought up tonight is the big bugbear that has a lot of people upset, which is the fact that some of that Gannon money is going up to the Spiritual Life Center. We have to work with this Gannon Trust, whether it's a commission, foundation, or whatever, in such a way that we make sure that there's a clear separation between this public money and dealing with religious institutions.
I agree with David on keeping the money in the community. Having said that, Liz's approach to the money is correct and needs to be released from the village attorney. What Mike Schreiner didn't say is that he receives a percentage off the interest earned on a yearly basis as a fee for holding the trust. And I understand the reluctance to give this money to the village, because it was always sort of presented that there was the potential that there would be abuse on the funds that are there. And I think that all of us or all of us who are running at this side anyway, we want that money to be left for the children and follow through with the stipulations of Mrs. Gannon's will, of which I don't know what they are. Do you know what they are?
I do.
And do you want to explain to everybody what the stipulations are?
I did sit on the committee, and I respect what Dave's saying about reforming the committee, but it was kind of frustrating because there are 30 of us. There are 30 people that are really involved and eager, but by the end of the 2-year study, there are probably 5 people left. So for me, it was very frustrating. One positive thing that they did do during that time is a survey So we got a real feeling from the students, from the community, where they wanted that money to be put to use. I have to be honest, Cathy, I think Chris would have a better understanding of what Norman Gannon stipulated, but when we're on the committee, we had to define youth. And that got really interesting because to me, youth is K through a senior. But in our committee, we agreed it was very young, babies to 2 years old to 21, I believe, Chris. Isn't that what we came up with? So that was interesting. And to serve many programs, besides Little League and Cub Scouts and things like that, to deal with real issues like teenage pregnancy, and across the board serve many different youths and their needs. I would like to see something formed again, but after experiencing it and actually being on it, it needs to be, yeah, definitely. Thank you.